Say Anil Bhai, past president of BCS, president of the Bombay Chartered Accountants Society, CME here, the coordinator or convener, chairman of this taxation committee who was organized to this event, CA Deepak Shah, other members of the organizing committee, beloved participants of this long duration course on income tax. I'm delighted to be here to share some of my thoughts as part of the keynote address. At the outset, I must compliment Bombay Chartered Accountants Society and more particularly the Taxation Committee for conceiving this idea of Paathshaala, that is going to the basics. As the President rightly mentioned, it is more about the practical aspects, the basics of the practical aspects of the tax implementation. And I'm sure all the age groups of participants who have enrolled, both qualified and the students, will be immensely benefited because I've run through the program schedule, 18 sessions, commencing from today, 4 to 8, ending on 30th of January, including a brainstorm session towards the end. And it encompasses or ropes in 22 eminent resource persons, whom I know are experts in their own way in the topics they are going to address. And I'm sure you have a great opportunity if you have not assimilated taxation. This is the best opportunity to get to know the nuances and the practical implications. In fact, it is not only about the basics, right from concept of income up to penalties and prosecution. It also has inbuilt things about, various entities taxation, like corporate taxation, trust-related taxation, international taxation. So those kind of segments which are evolving and which have their own complexities. In fact, it ropes in also the latest, recent phenomena of faceless regime and how to draft in a faceless regime. Because earlier we used to talk a lot about court craft, body language, articulation, presentation, all those things. But now, in a faceless regime, how are you going to make out a case? So drafting makes world of difference in the presentation of the case. So all those things are going to be dealt with by experts who have absolute practical knowledge besides the comprehension of the subject they are going to deal with. What I thought I will make use of this next 30 minutes or so is, to spend about 5 to 7 minutes on highlighting what other aspects you need to prepare yourself alongside this course and get the benefit of the Q&A, or even in terms of the faculty's sharing, you'll be in a much better position to grasp. So some of the things that you would have already known, but let me refresh your memory about that. And for the benefit of those who are learning this in depth for the first time, let me highlight what will make it a comprehensive learning along with the course by your own self-study before attending the respective sessions. Some of the things I feel like highlighting are, taxation, when we read, in addition to learning the income tax law, it will always be good to learn few allied laws, or rather even starting from the Constitution of India. What article or provision of the Constitution of India gives the right to levy tax, and what levies can be done by central government and what levies can be done by the state government. So right from that, and the General Clauses Act, what are the commonly applicable provisions of General Clauses Act, the Evidence Act, some provisions of the Civil Procedure Code, because even under the income tax law, you will find in many of the places, the authorities are empowered with the powers that are vested akin to the civil procedure code rights. And of course, the circulars, notifications, judicial precedents, all those things. And in terms of concepts, I would urge you to try to learn, is there any difference between a substantive law and a procedural law? Many of the things I'm mentioning, the difference was very vast and distinct. But maybe over a period of time, due to change in the approach, the perception, and the amendments that have come, certain things could have been diluted, but still there could be a thin line of difference in terms of implementation. And that can make a different consequence in terms of your handling the matter. Similarly, what is prospective, what is retrospective, and what is retroactive? That distinction, because it is possible that a provision is retrospective and therefore has ramifications in terms of nullifying all the past proceedings or reversing all the decisions, so on and so forth. Whereas if some provision is only retroactive, it doesn't affect what has been concluded earlier, but what is pending may get affected even though it is past matter. So those differential treatments. Similarly, even numbering of the law, how the sections are numbered. Sections get subdivided into subsections, and sometimes the sections get segregated into clauses. And what is the difference between a subsection and a clause? While subsection could be independent, say a clause is dependent on the section to give it a complete meaning. And clauses get subdivided into subclauses, and subclauses get subdivided into items, and items get subdivided into sub-items. The subtle distinction between these things in your interpretation can make all the difference in your understanding in terms of applicability of a provision to a particular client's case or a case study that you are dealing with. Similarly, what is the role of a proviso? What is the role of an explanation? And in terms of special provision versus general provision, how does it apply? How do they work together? There could be provisions which always start with a non-obstante clause, which the wording is generally notwithstanding anything contained in. So this expression, how is it handled in a particular provision? It is possible that a particular non-obstante clause overrides one another section. It may override one another subsection. It is possible that a non-obstante clause overrides a particular chapter. It may override a few chapters. It may override the entire Income Tax Act, notwithstanding anything contained in any other provision under the Act. It can also be non-obstanding, notwithstanding anything contained in any other Act. So you have to know how what is the overriding effect. And when there are two non-obstante classes functioning in conflict, which one will override the other one? Which notwithstanding will withstand the other notwithstanding? The later insertion will prevail. So there are, well-established principles for our understanding. Again, when you talk about concepts, like, the first session is concept of income, it goes on. So concept of, what is the concept of expenditure under Income Tax Act? Capital, in accounting parlance, you will have capital, revenue, deferred revenue and all. But under the Income Tax Act, how is it dealt with? Unless it is specifically deferred over a period of time, can anything be deferred? And what you perceive as revenue, is it automatically allowable unless it is disallowed? Similarly, what is perceived as capital, is it automatically disallowed unless specifically allowed under some provision? So this understanding, and again, what is the method of accounting that is permissible? So, and accounting policy ramifications. So the rules governing that, standards. Then real income and notional income concept. When income tax legislation was introduced, the distinction was fine and significant. But now, whatever appears to be notional also seems to be subject to levy of tax. So what is still not taxable because it is not real. That would be an interesting study from your perspective. So these are all some of the thoughts. As a prelude to the long certification course, I will just, hint at the beginning, inception, to kindle your thought process and a research study kind of a thing. Now, let me go to a specific topic, because anything more than this, if I say, I might be encroaching into the domain of these speakers, 22 experts who are going to take you in depth into the taxation subject. So I would stop about the theme of this course to this extent and take up this as part of my keynote address, because I want to give something beyond this course for you to, as a value addition for your take home and, process it. Being a chartered accountant for those who are qualified and the students who are aspiring to become chartered accountants, I think it will be appropriate to know how important it is for us to think of building a brand. And how can we build a brand in terms of a chartered accountant in practice? Take a look at what Prime Minister Modi says on 1st of July 2022 as a message to our profession. He says, we have an important role to play. That is what is the underlying phenomena. And he says, we have to keep working hard in furthering the growth and transparency in the economy. Two things are very clear, which we have to realize to be proud of our profession. The first thing is, in my view, which is also reflected in this message, is no other profession can boast of so much of proximity to the economic growth of this country as a chartered accountancy profession. So that is why, in furthering the growth, we have an important role. Second thing is, the entire investments, both domestic as well as what comes from overseas, foreign direct investment, or whatever flow of funds, India, if it has to transform into a most attractive investment hub for global investment to come in, we need to provide transparency. In other words, India is known as Incredible India because of so many factors. It can showcase. It is an incredible India in terms of natural resources, in terms of mineral wealth, in terms of the beauty and diversity of the culture and the nature, all those things. In this incredible India, we have to build a credible economy. How do you build a credible economy? By every balance sheet, every financial statement which a chartered accountant signs should have a stamp of credibility. And that is what is transparency in the economy. So if that is there, then the investors' faith, trust, and confidence in India will reach the pinnacle of what it reaches. And therefore, our profession can claim to be rightfully described as the partners in nation building. And in terms of our strength, we are almost 3.5 lakhs population, and women population of about 28%, close to 1 lakh. Rest are all men. And in that, certificate of practice, non-certificate of practice, 54% in in industry and 46% in practice. So this kind of a composition, we need to have this urge to build a brand identity. We need to have this quest to build a brand identity. And what constitutes brand identity? Our authenticity, our personality, our honoring of commitments, the differentiation we can make, the values we follow, and the vision with which we march ahead. All these things will collectively create our brand identity. And the reputation of our profession, it is not independent of the reputation of chartered accountants individually. It is actually the collective reputation of the members that culminates into the reputation of the profession, the brand image, the goodwill of the profession. The strength of the chain is always the weakest link. And therefore, even if some CA commits a blunder or is hand in glove in some fraud and that gets exposed, that negative news causes a dent in the image of the profession. There are so many positives, positive contributions that are happening, because behind every successful merger and acquisition, there is a chartered accountant. There are many chartered accountants. Behind every turnaround operations, there are chartered accountants. Behind building, scaling the business of a small enterprise to medium, and a medium to a large enterprise, and a large enterprise to a listed enterprise, and a listed enterprise to a multinational enterprise, there are chartered accountants. But all those things don't get highlighted, or unusually projected. But it is like, in a just now World FIFA match tournament concluded. So, it's like a goalkeeper who doesn't save a goal. So he is blamed. France lost in a tiebreaker penalty shoot to Argentina 4-2. So again, in the traffic rule violation on the road, maybe 100 times you would have adhered to the rule. There is nobody to applaud you. But once you violate and there is a constable who catches you, then your image is tarnished. So every step we take, because we are perceived as elite class of citizens, we should be careful on our intent, our thought, our action, and our conduct. And therefore, and the most important thing is, we are not operating in a scenario which is devoid of all, this negativity, corruption, and all that. The society at large, the commercial world at large, has its own black ships and negative things happening around us. In spite of that, we will have to build our image as a challenge. There will be setbacks. There will be humiliation. There will be scars. Especially for the young members and students, it is possible that there are instances of frustration or bottlenecks that you face. But the success, the journey of success, is not in the distance that you cover. It is in the bottlenecks you overcome. So you should have the determination, that perseverance, not to give up and move ahead, because every next level of your life demands a new version of yourself. Sometimes to take that new version, you will have to be broken in the current version. Then you will recoup yourself, rebounds, become stronger, become wiser, and become the version which it demands to scale the next height. So that is the positivity you should always have in adversity. You should not succumb to any setbacks or failure. You should bounce back stronger and demonstrate you are not here to succumb to setbacks, but you are here to achieve and accomplish. Similarly, in terms of the skill and talent, qualification is like a license. But with mere license, without skills, you cannot take a car on the road. It will be dangerous for everybody, including yourself. But merely because you have talent, you have the skills, without a license, if you take also, it is illegal. So I'm more emphasizing this point for my student friends. You must have practical training, and you must also achieve the qualification. Only then you will be able to attest their financial statements, and you will do it properly with your skills. So that sanctity of the signature we must understand. Before qualifying, your signature, what it means, is totally different from what it has in terms of sanctity after you qualify. By looking at your signature, one signature in the balance sheet, it is possible that $1 billion investment decision is taken, believing that that financial statement is true and fair. It is reliable. So that is the sanctity of the signature. And that decision is taken by a person somewhere sitting across the globe, whom you do not know and who does not know your face, but the sanctity of your signature gives him that confidence. And besides, the charm of our profession is, we are a regulated profession. We are accountable. And therefore, we need to continuously update our knowledge, upgrade our knowledge. And that's where the courses of this nature assume great significance. It's not just 2 hours here and go. It is, 18 sessions spread with the experts coming and giving you insightful, inputs about each of the important segments of this topic. Therefore, all through this certificate course, I am sure you will be sharpening your brain, polishing your understanding. It's like that saw and axe, no? That story of two woodcutters, where one continuously went on chopping, other one took break now and then. So all the more the first one got energized that the other guy is not chopping every 1 hour, he is taking 10 minutes rest, and therefore he thought he has outsmarted him. But finally, when the count was done about the wood that was cut, the second one had more to his score, and therefore he was declared the winner. And when this guy inquired, he said, I was not taking rest. I was only sharpening my saw. I was sharpening my axe. There were 10 minutes every 1 hour. So it is not the quantity or the duration. It is the quality with which you handle things that will give the best of the output. And that is where, as we are professionals, but not robots. We are human beings performing as elite class professionals, and therefore we should have a balanced strategy on striking a balance between physical, mental, spiritual, and social aspects of life, emotional balance of life. And that is where that last bullet in yellow color, pandemic situation, new normal, that has taught us how important it is to have physical fitness, immunity, mental balance, whether the world is functioning the way you want it, or you are shut within and asked to work from home or work from hospital for 2 years. That mental balance. Again, you are not alone in the social environment. How do you adapt to the new ecosystem? And spiritual, ingredients of your life is giving you that basic strength to realize that you are not alone. Your creator is always within you. So therefore, you can face anything because you are facing it together. So that kind of a balance, if you have in life, I think no challenge will appear to be a challenge. And in terms of skills, talent, knowledge, these are all the happening sectors. In the sense, I thought I will, we can go back. So those 10 areas, I thought I'll just highlight because in the emerging scenario, the digital transformation, virtual CFO, support services, forensic audit, risk-based, systems-based audit. AML is a big practice that is evolving in the banking related area, and cyber security, internal financial controls audit, IBC and CLG resolution professionals, and the taxation because of inbound, outbound investments, all the related international taxation, DTA, besides the FDI, FMR related rules and regulations. You can be advisor to HNIs, and after pandemic, I think even medium net worth individuals and small and medium enterprises also need planning for their rainy days and all that. And family arrangement, structuring, succession planning. Large industrial houses, business enterprises, they are now requesting chartered accountants to plan for the legacy, posterity, how the inheritance has to happen, but still there should be unity and harmony in retaining the wealth of the family, kind of a thing. Consultancy, value addition. Again, chartered accountants have moved from number crunching to strategy thinking. So all these things are great opportunities for young minds to work on. Though this is not exhaustive, it is only illustrated. Again, the underlying philosophy of any profession, and more so our profession, lies upon the ethical value fabric which we follow. So that under no circumstances we can afford to compromise upon, because see, the strength of the profession is no doubt on the competence of the professionals, the independence of the professionals. But above all, the ethical fabric of the profession is what will stand us in good stead under all circumstances. And for that, of course, we should shun away from being greedy. And we can have aspirations, but all aspirations should be achieved through ethical means and with contentment. And while we can decline when low fee is offered, because the value of services should be respected. At the same time, merely because somebody is offering high fee, we cannot undertake it if it has any element of compromising value system. And income should always be perceived as a byproduct for rendering quality services. So focus on intangibles, on the quality of the services. The tangible, which is in terms of the fee part, will automatically follow. And initially, when we start the profession, we consider it as a source of income for sustenance. And later, as we gain experience and the income keeps moving up, we try to enhance our quality of life. Then some savings start happening, and therefore we move to acquire assets that we need, basic assets, and we borrow also to support that acquisition and start repaying. But a day should come, and earlier it comes, the better it is. And maybe if you have that spiritual, all that emotional balance I was talking about, maybe right from beginning, you might be in this quadrant where you function for your satisfaction, for upholding your reputation. The other things may take its own time, but it will happen gradually in a calibrated way. So this is the phases, how to strike a balance, not to lose rhythm, and the boundaries of ethical operational framework is left to each one of us, and we should be able to tackle it properly. And again, as you keep growing, never compromise on ethics, I said. Similarly, never undersell your services. If a client is unable to understand or afford you, let him go to another youngster who can render the same service at a lower fee, because he is in the nascent stage or growing stage, and he has more time to devote. That social objective also can be achieved by your giving up certain clients who cannot afford you. Second thing, if you undersell the services and if you undervalue the services, nobody is going to value it properly. So you should be very particular about it. And for the fear of losing a client, you should not, lower the fee standards at all. The bitterness of, and because you are charging less, you should not become again indifferent in rendering the services, and that leads to poor quality, because that will always last longer than the taste of cheaper price. And in evolving technological scenario, you have to adapt and stay relevant, and you have to think of strategic inputs than mere number crunching, value addition, embrace skills and technology, so that you will be able to, best of talent, you will be able to grow. You will have to provide the best of infrastructure for your team, and you will work in an ambience that merits the output also, the due upgradation of quality. And in terms of honoring commitments, professionals should have this time sense, consciousness, and punctuality, and value time of others as much as we value our own time, and no question of procrastination and delay in delivery of services. All these things, if we avoid, I think the reputation, the goodwill, the trust and confidence will emanate out of this. And at the same time, we can do this much better if we are able to balance all these four aspects of our life, family and relations, health, values, and profession. So striking a balance between the four is very, very important for a professional to, ensure, because one of this not handled properly can hamper your functioning on the other three aspects. So from that perspective, and last message I want to give as part of this keynote address is, there is life beyond merely being successful in profession or in anything that you want to succeed. Life is not just about achieving success. There is something beyond the success. Three examples I have quoted. Lance Armstrong, was stripped of all his medals because he was 6 times or so champion in cycling, Tour de France. He won from Tour de France due to doping. So what is the message? Message is, if there is unethical means of achieving your rewards, it can be stripped off anytime. So lack of morality. Second, Boris Becker had to sell his Wimbledon trophies due to bankruptcy. Financial discipline is also very, very important. How much you earn is irrelevant. As I say, it can differ from person to person. But out of that, how much you save for your lifelong independence, financial independence is very, very important. So that lack of financial discipline landed Boris Becker, not just him. There are many celebrities we can quote, but he had to sell his trophies to sustain himself without, ultimately he broke. Then the third is Michael Phelps, who was described as the most decorated Olympian in the history of humanity. Michael Phelps was battling from depression and fighting against suicidal thoughts. Why? Again, emotional imbalance. So, value system, financial discipline, and emotional balance. All these things are required more than, achieving success. Achieve success, but for everything, it has to be within the limitations. So the final question I put is, what do you want to be in life? In fact, this is not the question I am asking you. This is a question a teacher asked about 30 students in a classroom, what do you want to be in life? And asked them to write the answer by one word and give the answer sheet. She collected the answer sheets and she started evaluating. She was so happy to see the divergent answers she got. One student wrote architect, another student wrote chartered accountant, doctor, engineer, pilot, nutrition, politician, social activist, like that. So, because the question was, what do you want to be in life? So they thought over it and put what is their ambition. But when one answer sheet she noticed, she was, perplexed. She called the student and said, what have you written? I think you have not understood the question properly. I've asked you, what do you want to be in life? You have written happy. The student replied, Miss, you may think I have not understood the question properly, but I think you have not understood life properly. Because being a chartered accountant or an advocate or a doctor is your occupation, your profession. That is not everything in life. That is one segment of your life. What do you want to be in life? Beyond your profession, beyond what you do, you have to be happy. Anything that you do, anything that you achieve at the cost of your health and happiness has no meaning at all. And if you have lost health, everything is lost, and then you cannot be happy. So everything ultimately, what do you want to be happy in life? What do you want to be in life? The answer that the student gave was, I want to be happy. So if there is a Benz car worth 1 crore plus traveling on the road, and the chauffeur is driving in the front seat, and he draws a salary of 3,000 rupees. The owner of that Benz car sitting in the rear seat has a net worth of 30 billion, whatever it is. And the driver, after handing over the car and key, and goes and enjoys his dinner and sleeps on the platform outside his hut. Blissfully, the rest of the world doesn't exist for him and he's able to get up. Whereas that billionaire is unable to sleep the whole night because so many problems are haunting him. Is that you want to be in life, achieve in life? Just a thought. So therefore, what I would like to say is, we have to justify our existence in this life, and therefore, just as corporates, we talk about CSR, corporate. So even in profession, I think let us practice PSR, professional social responsibility. So in whatever we do, be the best trainer, best employer. For students, be the best student. The principal should love to interest work and work with you, and be fascinated how you pick up things and you try to excel the seniors, and nurture and groom leaders. Transform aspirations of people around us into accomplishments even before their expectations, and give back through not-profit organization, companies, trust, NGOs, by your own being a trustee or a director or an activist, whatever it is. To do all this, preserve your health and happiness. And by practicing this professional social responsibility, I think we'll be able to emerge with that happiness. We will be able to cherish the success also. And for Indian profession who will be partners, who are partners in nation building, I dream of pan-India firms over a period of time, global firms, global network originating from here. For that conducive policy making, that is the dream for way forward. With this, positive thought and framework, let me conclude my keynote address. And thank you all for your patient listening. Thank you.